everyone, welcome back, or if you're new here, just welcome. I'm Faye and today we are talking about affordable, high quality products that would be good for beginners. So if you're new to makeup and you're looking to find a few products that you can play with that are going to be really easy to use and are going to give you a nice finish without a whole lot of hard work, stay tuned. If you're just looking for some good affordable recommendations and you already know what you're doing with makeup, also carry on watching because there may be some things in here that you haven't come across before. Okay, let's get started. I haven't included a primer in this video because I don't feel like a primer is an essential step or necessarily a beginner's kind of step. Once you figure out where you get oily, where you look dry, where your makeup wears off a bit more than in other places, then you can add in a primer to address those specific issues. But if you're just starting out, you really just want to go in with your sunscreen and then your foundation. So I'm using the L'Oreal True Match. Now there's a lot of reasons to love this foundation apart from the fact that it's affordable. You get very, very good quality for what you're paying. It doesn't smell funny, it doesn't smell chemically the same way the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation does. It comes in 40 shades with cool, neutral and warm undertones. I am 1.5N. It claims to be super blendable and it absolutely is. You don't have to faff around with this. It doesn't dry down super quickly. You can easily blend it out with your sponge without worrying about it going patchy. You can layer it without it looking cakey. Today I'm using my Real Techniques sponge to blend out. I love the original Beauty Blender, but it is very expensive and Real Techniques offer a high quality, more affordable alternative. It gives a solid medium coverage, so you're not going to have to spend a whole lot of time going in with concealer all over your face because that is hard work and takes some skill. It claims to provide 24-hour hydration and I would definitely agree that this is hydrating but without being oily. I don't have to worry about this looking weird or breaking up on the oilier patches of my face around my nose and my chin, but it also doesn't highlight any areas of dryness. And of course, you've got to remember to blend down your neck because even with 40 shades, you're not going to find an absolutely perfect match. So it's always important to blend downwards so that you don't have a harsh line between your face and your neck. Moving on now to concealer, and I'm using the Maybelline Instant Anti-Age Eraser Concealer. I'm in the shade 00 Ivory. I'm not a big fan of the mechanism, this like twist up cap thing that it has, but honestly, the product inside is so good that I will just put up with that. Now this is a reasonably hydrating but full coverage concealer. It doesn't go super dry and highlight any crepey fine lines around the eyes, but it also is pretty budge proof, so you can use it for blemishes and on other areas of your face apart from your under eyes. This doesn't dry down too fast again, so it's very easy to blend out. You don't have to worry about it going patchy. You can also layer it up without it looking cakey, so you can really go over those darker areas and make sure they're nicely concealed. Now this may be a slightly controversial product for a beginner's video, but I personally think that this is very user-friendly. And this is a cream blush. This is the Maybelline Cheek Heat Cream Blush. This is the shade Nude Burn, and it's a nice neutral pink. It's not too bright, it's not too dark, it's just a nice user-friendly colour. Now a lot of people wouldn't include cream highlight, cream blush, cream contour in a beginner's makeup kit, and I'd agree that cream highlight and cream contour are kind of finicky and need a little practice to work with, but a cream blush honestly is very user-friendly and it doesn't require a load of extra products to apply it. It doesn't require any particularly special brush or anything like that because you can apply it with your fingertips, you can apply it with your sponge, and you won't really encounter any problems. Now, this is not my favourite cream blush. I usually love the Glossier Cloud Paints, but the reason this one is good for beginners is because it's not super pigmented. Now if you're really into makeup, you might not like the fact that it's not super pigmented, but for a beginner with a cream blush, you want something that's buildable. If you go in with a slightly heavy hand, it's not going to be problematic. You can just blend the product out. Now I personally love a lot of blush and I always take my blush up onto my forehead. This is because as a pale person, when I tan, I do get a slightly more red, almost a little tiny bit burnt tinge to my skin colour. Adding a little bit of blush up onto my forehead makes the effect more natural when I add my bronzer later on. That is all of our cream products done, so we can move on to powders. Now I actually have some options for you here rather than suggesting just one powder, because everyone's skin is different and people want different things from their powders. So I have the Gosh Prime and Set. Now this comes in several versions. This is the one with hyaluronic acid in it, and this is a white translucent loose powder. It does look pretty much translucent upon my skin tone. It potentially does lighten things up a little bit. I wouldn't recommend this to someone with deep skin, but if you are fair, you can use this without any issue. Now this really sets the makeup down, really sets it down. It helps control oil. Your makeup is basically not going to budge, but that has its downsides. For example, if you're like me and you have quite deep smile lines and the product tends to gather in there, if you've added a powder like this, you're not going to be able to blend that out or really fix it. You're just going to have to live with it, because if you try and blend it out, all that will happen is the product will come off of your face rather than blending out onto the skin. That is the downside of setting with a really strong translucent setting powder. So on the other end, you have the pressed tinted powder. Now this is the Radiant Fusion Baked Powder from Kiko Milano, and this is a really lovely powder if you want more of a soft set. This also adds a little tint of colour, so a tiny bit more of coverage to the skin, and it comes in several different shades because it does have that tint. Now, this will set your makeup, but not to the point of this stuff where it won't like budge at all. If you have issues that you need to sort of blend out during the day, like it gathering in lines, then a powder like this could be for you, because it allows you to reblend your makeup throughout the day. In the middle, we have another loose powder. This one actually has a tint, and this is the Innisfree No Sebum Moisture Powder. Now, Innisfree makes two of these powders, the original No Sebum powder and the moisture powder. The moisture powder is obviously a more hydrating version of the No Sebum powder, so if you have oily skin, the original No Sebum powder will be for you. If you have more dry skin, you can go for the moisture version. Now this does set down the makeup more than the Kiko Milano powder, but not to the same extent as the Gosh Prime and Set, so it's a little less drying and doesn't give you that slightly tight feeling on the skin, and it gives you a slightly less powdery effect on the skin. Now that all of our makeup is set down, we can move on to our pigmented powder products, so our bronzer, highlight and blush. I'm not going to contour today because again, that's a bit more of a sophisticated, involved kind of technique that maybe you don't want to jump straight into if you are a makeup beginner. So for bronzer, I'm going to use the L'Oreal Back to Bronze. Now this is a matte powder. It's quite light in colour and it's also not super pigmented. And this is really good for beginners because if you go in with a slightly heavy hand, it's not going to look crazy. You can just gradually build it up to what you want. Also, it has a really nice undertone for fair skin. It's not too orange, it's not too grey, so you're not going to look like you got tangoed. I'm going to brush it gently, starting around my hairline. Moving on to the other side so that we get a nice even effect. And I do like to brush bronzer back into my hair so that you don't have that stark line that divides your face from your hairline, because these areas here where you can see the skin is very pale and it can look a little bit weird. Moving on to other areas where the sun would naturally hit the face, I'm going to stroke over the top of the cheekbones, over the nose, and a little on the chin here, to around the jaw. You can also use your bronzer as eyeshadow. Now I'm not going to include an eyeshadow palette today because I feel like blending lots of different colours into a look is more of a sort of technical thing that you have to learn. It's not something that you start out with. But with your bronzer, you can just add a little definition to the crease. So I'm just going to get a reasonable amount of product on this brush, always tapping it off, and then looking down so that I can see this area here where the bone joins my eyelid, this little socket area. I'm going to take the brush at this angle and push upwards onto that bone. And I'm just using a gentle windscreen wiper motion, pushing up into that bone where my crease is. I'm going to take a little more now just on one side of the brush. and I'm just going to blend it up and outwards a bit here at this edge. If you blend your eyeshadow out a little bit here at the crease, it gives your eye a little bit more lift rather than making it look droopy. Obviously need the other eye to match, so again I'm looking down and pressing my brush up into the bone. That sounds really gross. Pressing it into the bone. I mean, I'm pressing it into the little gap where the bone is. With a more flat brush, I'm going to add a little bit to the lower lash line here, just on this outer third, to add a little definition. Moving on now to highlight. Personally, I like to do my highlight before my blush, and I will explain why in a minute. I have two different products to show you. The first is a single highlight. This is the Wet n Wild Megaglo highlighting powder in Precious Petals. Now this is the more peachy gold toned one. They also make a more pink toned one. I also have here a highlight palette. This is the Soph X Revolution collaboration. Now, Makeup Revolution are very affordable. They have a lot of different highlight palettes. It allows you to experiment with different colours, play around. Usually the formulas are pretty pigmented, and you can also use these as eyeshadows instead of having an eyeshadow palette if you want to. I'm going to start out with the single because sometimes a whole palette can be a little bit intimidating, and I'm going to apply this to the high points of my cheekbones. So I'm going to take a little brush, just swirl that in the product, and again, as always, tap, 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 so it isn't too crazy. And I'm just gonna place this on my cheekbone and swirl it around here. And this product is pretty impactful. That's why I've tapped a lot off my brush so that I don't end up with a crazy, crazy highlight streak. I'm also adding a little bit to my brow bone and up above the eyebrow. Everyone has like personal favourite places to highlight. Some people like to highlight their nose, some people like to highlight their chin. For me personally, I feel like my chin and my jawline is already pretty prominent, so I don't really like to draw further attention to it with a load of highlight, but I do like to add a little glow up here on the forehead. I'm not a big person for highlighting a lot of the nose. I'm just going to put the tiniest touch up near the top. I don't really highlight the tip of my nose really. I feel like that's something that looks good on video but it doesn't really look good in person, so I care more about what looks good in person than what looks good on video. Maybe my priorities are the wrong way around seeing as I'm making videos, but that's just the way I feel. So now dipping into the Soph X palette. Obviously these colours over here are too dark for me, but if you have a deeper skin tone, these would suit you. I can use them as eyeshadows. I'm going to mix these two together. I will say I don't get much use out of these because I'm more about like a natural look. But if you want to have fun and experiment, then obviously like go ahead, use any colour of highlight. I mean, it's cool, right? Just play with it. You do get quite a lot of kickback with these. They are pretty powdery, you can see there. But they are, oh my god, but they are also, why can I not speak? Oh my god, they are also impactful and pigmented, so I don't really mind the little bit of dustiness. So I'm going to add a little bit just here. And I feel like these two mixed together give me like a nice tone for my skin personally. I prefer more of a like pale gold kind of highlight to anything too pink. It just doesn't suit my skin to have pink highlight. That's looking pretty. I'm also going to add a little bit to my upper lip. I don't have very big lips. My upper lip particularly is pretty small, so I like to make it look a little bit bigger with a little bit of highlight. As I said, you can also use something like this as eyeshadow, and also just an inner corner highlight with highlighter is very popular anyway. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to start out with this one here on, wow, my hands are covered in highlight. I'm going to start out with this one here on a little brush. This is a brush from Eco Tools. And I'm going to put this on my inner corner. You can use your finger for this, but I tend to use a brush just because I find that when I use my finger, it goes places where I didn't quite intend it to go. If you have better control over your hands than me, then go ahead and use your finger. You can use your finger for basically pretty much all of your eyeshadow, apart from blending in the crease. You kind of need a brush for that. But in terms of applying shadows to your lid, you can just use your finger. So now that I've applied this one, I'm actually going to move over to this far end here, and I'm going to apply that next. So just stroking up from that inner corner onto the eyelid. Now that that area is blended, I am going to switch to my finger, and I'm going to go to this colour here, coat that in the product, and then I'm going to just smudge it onto the outer corner of my eye here with my finger. Once you've done that, you can blend the crease just to take away any untidiness. If you have a single highlight, you can still apply your single highlight to the eyes. You can apply your blusher to the eyes. You can use your products anywhere you like. Finally, we are moving on to blush. Now, this product has been around for a long time. A few years ago, it was talked about all over YouTube, and it is the Milani Baked Blush in Luminoso. And this is a really beautiful peach with a gold kind of gold. It's a shimmer. It's not super glittery shimmery. It is a kind of a pretty sheen. It's not too over the top. The shade Bella Bellini is also really pretty. That's a slightly more pink compared to peach. But I'm just going to dab my big fluffy brush in here, tap, and then I'm going to apply this just to my cheeks. And the reason I like to apply blush after highlight is I feel it gives me an opportunity to sort of blend that highlight further and blend it into the blush, so that I don't just have a big streak of highlight. It looks a little bit more blended, a little bit more natural. Got that blush going on kind of over the top, melting everything together. I tried to say like melting and melding then at the same time, and it sort of came out weird, but bear with me. And just taking what's left on my brush up onto my forehead, blending that into my bronzer. Even put a little bit on my nose if I want to look a little bit like I spent too much time in the sun. Yeah, these blushes, they were great when everyone was talking about them, and they're still great now. And I mean, this is big. This is a lot of product. Like, this is gonna last. I've had this for so long, and it looks, I mean, it basically looks new, even though I've had it for years. So if you really like them and you buy them, you're basically set for blush forever. I do want to briefly mention some eyeshadow in case you did want to know a little bit more about eyeshadow. Now, an eyeshadow palette might be a little bit intimidating, but it can be nice just to buy a single eyeshadow. Find one colour that you really like, that you're going to get a lot of use out of, and just buy that one single. And for single eyeshadows, I personally love Kiko Milano. I'm going to show you 3 different eyeshadows that they make. One of them is obviously like tucked away in here, but let's start with the cheapest. So the cheapest is the Smart eyeshadow, and it looks like this. It just comes in a little box, and it's a square eyeshadow. These come in a wide variety of shades and finishes like matte, shimmer, metallic, satin, etc. And for the price, these are really good quality. Now, our middle priced one is the High Pigment Wet and Dry eyeshadow. So you can see in my magnetic palette here, all of these shadows around the edge are Kiko Milano High Pigment Wet and Dry shadows. And these are a little bit softer than the cheapest ones, a little bit more pigmented. As it says in the name, wet and dry, you can use them wet to get them super, super impactful. And these blend like a dream. These are beautiful, beautiful shadows. And then finally, our most expensive Kiko single eyeshadow is the Water Shadow. It looks like this. Again, it comes in a wide range of colours, and these are really, really beautiful. A lot of these shadows come in a duochrome finish, which means they have kind of 2 colours to them. So as you turn and shift with the light, you get like a slightly different colour reflecting, and that can be really nice because it means you can apply one shadow all over the eye and get an effect which looks like you just put in a lot more effort. So I'm going to pop a little bit of this one on just so you can see how impactful it is compared to using the highlight on the eye. So again, I'm just going to take a little bit of this on my finger and apply it to the outer edge here. And you can see the colour payoff is obviously a lot more significant with an eyeshadow that's actually designed to go on the eyes. And like I said, I am a big fan of these particular eyeshadows. Where's my blending brush? Again, you can just apply them with your finger and then blend out any edges with your brush on this side. This, by the way, is shade 234, which is a copper. Moving on to eyeliner, and my absolute favourite affordable eyeliner is by a Korean brand called MacQueen New York. I don't know why it's called MacQueen New York when it's Korean, but it is. And they have a line called the Waterproof Pencil Gel Liner. It comes in black plus a variety of brown shades in satin and metallic sort of glittery finishes. Now I'm going to swatch a few for you here. So I have the shades going from the top 1, 3, 4 and 8. And as you can see, the black is like a, not completely matte, but it's not like a glittery metallic finish. And then the others are like varying degrees of shiny. Now, I know not everyone likes a shiny liner, so I apologise if you don't like shiny liner. I personally quite like metallic liners, but I'm going to go today with this one here on the upper lash line because I feel like this brown that's just, it's not too glittery, is nicely wearable. So this is shade 08. This is what they look like. They are very soft, but they are waterproof. And the good thing about that is that once you apply them, and they are easy to apply because they are creamy. Once they apply, they don't go anywhere because they have that waterproofness. They are very long lasting despite their creamy texture. Whereas I find a lot of other long lasting liners that are waterproof have a very waxy texture that's kind of hard to apply. Once you get them on, they're great and they're very waterproof, but actually applying them is kind of hard work, and that I'm not really down for. So I personally love these liners, and they're not even expensive. Plus, Yes Style and Stylevana constantly have sales, so you can pretty much always get them at a discount as well. I'm also going to show you the black because I feel like a black is a pretty essential product. I'm going to use this to tightline. Now I know tightlining might seem scary, but it's not as scary or as difficult as it looks. What you need is a reasonably soft, not hard and scratchy pencil. You need to hold it pretty much upright, not this way like you're going to poke yourself in the eye. Hold it upright, open your eyes, look down, and then poke it up in there. I've got a mirror down here that I'm looking into so that I can see what I'm doing. And there we are. And it just makes your lashes look thicker and your eyes a little more defined. And I promise it's not as scary as it looks. I'm going to add a little bit of black just above the lash line as well here on the outer corner. Let's use number 4, which was our lightest one here. And I'm going to apply this to the lower waterline. That in there. I always put a funny face when I'm doing this. Okay, I'm going to stop playing with the eye makeup now and leave it at that before it gets too complicated. I'm not going to apply my mascara quite yet because I am going to apply a setting spray, and I like to apply my setting spray and then my mascara just to make sure that my mascara doesn't get wet and then smudge. So for now we're going to move on to brows. Now again, with brows you have options depending on what your brows are like. If you're like me and you weren't exactly blessed in the brow department, you have pencils to fill in. And this is a great one from NYX because it's really, really fine. Oh, that's the spoolie end. And twist up, so you don't have to sharpen it. It's always nice and pointy, ready to use. But if you have lots of brows and they're already quite dark or dense or whatever, and you don't really feel like you need to fill them in, you can just go straight to a brow gel. If you want a little bit of extra filling in, you can use a tinted brow gel. This is another NYX product, the Tinted Brow Mascara. Or you can just use a clear gel if you feel like you don't need any help with pigmentation at all. This isn't actually a brow gel, this is a clear mascara, but they're basically the same thing. And this is a really affordable one from Wet n Wild. So for me personally, I am going to fill in with a pencil and then use a clear gel rather than use the tinted gel. You do have to be careful with tinted gels. I think they're the most difficult brow product to work with because you have to be super careful just to get them in your brow hairs and not touch them to your skin because they are coloured. Whereas with a clear gel, you touch it on your skin, you get it on your skin, it honestly doesn't matter. So for me, this is my preferred route, and I'm going to start filling in my brows. I'm going to start filling in my brows. I'm going to get the spoolie first, actually, because what I like to do is make sure any excess foundation and powder that may be in my brows is brushed out so that they're not all gunked up with product. Okay, now I'm going to fill in my brows. So I'm just going to do little strokes. I don't like to be like super precise about this. I don't want a brow that has very clear lines, like it's very blocky or very sort of squared off. So I like to keep it quite soft. So I don't put like really strong lines at the top and the bottom of my brow. Just focus most of the little strokes within the natural lines that are already there. And then take the spoolie again and brush. And it's okay, obviously, if your brows do not look identical. They are sisters, not twins, as everyone says. It's time for lips. Now, there's so many options for lips. I mean, literally, like, if you don't want to spend a lot of time on your lips or you're worried about product wearing off throughout the day, you don't want to have to touch it up, you can just wipe off the foundation so that your normal lip colour shows through, then put on a gloss and call it a day. But I feel like that wouldn't really be including products that are good for beginners. I feel like I'd kind of just be skipping lips. So I'm going to do like a proper lip look today, but you don't necessarily have to do this. I am going to start with a lip liner. Now, some people might say a lip liner is not an essential product for beginners, and if you're young and you don't have any fine lines yet, then yes, you don't need a liner. You can just go in with your lipstick, throw it on, and you're done. But when you start to get older, you get little fine lines here around your lips. I don't know if you can see here mine where that highlight is sitting. And when you have little fine lines around your lips, you put on a creamy product like a lipstick or a pigmented gloss, and it starts to travel up the lines. This is called bleeding, and it's not attractive because the colour that's meant to be on your lips ends up outside your lip line, and once it happens, you can't really fix it. A lip liner has a waxy formula, so it's going to fill in those lines and stop the bleeding happening. So that is one good reason to use a lip liner. The second good reason to use a lip liner is that you can fill in your entire lip with it, almost like a lipstick, so that you get a more long wearing lip look. You can then throw a gloss on top or just a regular lipstick to create something that's gonna stay there better. I mean, you are still gonna have to touch it up if you eat and drink, but otherwise it should stay in place. The third advantage to a lip liner is that you can overline your lips, change the shape of your lips, etc. Now, I usually do overline my top lip, but I'm not going to do that today, even though that's what I usually would do, because overlining, again, is kind of a technique that you have to learn and play around and experiment with. It's not really a beginner technique. So let's just stick to the natural lip line today. Now, this is my favourite affordable lip liner. This is from Gosh. Again, I know I have a couple of Gosh products in here, but Gosh is a really good brand that like no one talks about. It's available at Superdrug. And this is the Velvet Touch Waterproof Lip Pencil. This is the shade Nougat Crisp, which is a really nice, slightly more brown toned pinky nude, which gives a kind of nice natural matte lips, but better kind of a vibe. And because it's so kind of nude and neutrally, it works well under a bunch of different lipsticks. So I'm gonna just line my lips with this. Can't talk at the same time, so I'm just gonna do it and then come back. Moving on to lipstick. Now there are a lot of different options for lipstick today. You've got highly pigmented glosses, you've got matte liquid lipsticks, you've got vinyl liquid lipsticks that are really shiny, and you've obviously got the traditional lipstick formula still in there, still doing its job. Personally, I love a traditional lipstick because they're hydrating, they're pigmented, they're really easy to apply. You can just whack it on. You don't even really have to have a mirror to reapply your lipstick when it's a traditional one like this. A liquid lipstick, typically they're very pigmented. You have to work hard with the applicators to get a nice smooth line on the outside of your lip. And because they are so pigmented, if you go wrong, then it's kind of hard to fix and it can end up being a disaster. Also, they're so drying, some formulas, that you have to really prepare your lips. You worry about them looking all dry and cracked, particularly if you've got dry lips like me. They can kind of gunk up in the corners of your mouth. Like, there are a lot of problems you can run into with a liquid lipstick, and a traditional lipstick is just so easy in comparison and so comfortable. So I personally prefer this. That's just my preference. I don't mind having to reapply. So this is from L'Oreal. This is one of the Color Riche lipsticks. Now I actually realised looking through my lipsticks when I was like, well, obviously for a lipstick it's got to be L'Oreal Color Riche. I realised that all of mine are from limited collections. But anyway, it's still the same original formula. This just happens to be the nudes collection that they did with a bunch of female celebrities. So this is Eva Longoria's nude. I also have JLo's nude in my drawer. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it, when you say it like that, actually? I just completely distracted myself with that. So these days the Color Riche line has multiple different formulas and finishes. You've got the traditional one like this, but you've also got ones that are high shine, matte, ultra matte. They make metallic lipsticks. But the formula is really reliable. They're creamy, they're pigmented, they're easy to apply. They come in a large range of nude and neutral kinds of shades so that you can find one that matches your skin tone. And apart from the smell, which I personally don't find objectionable, but some people do, just a warning, some people don't like it. I think it smells a bit like Parma violets, you know, those little purple sweets, which I personally love, but I know a lot of people also don't. So if you hate Parma violets, I would stay away from this lipstick. But if you're okay with that scent, then these are a really good option that are affordable. So pop that on. And that is just really comfortable. And it's not super, super shiny. It's just sort of a natural shiny. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like a super high gloss lipstick. It's just a nice middle ground that's comfortable and easy to wear. And they're an oldie but a goodie. Now moving on to setting spray, this is a little bit confusing and I apologise, but I have a NYX setting spray in a Rimmel bottle. That's because I really like the NYX Dewy setting spray, but the mister on the Rimmel setting spray was better. So when I'd finished up the Rimmel spray, I poured my NYX spray into this bottle. That's not to say that the NYX spray bottle is terrible. It's okay, it's usable. It's not gonna like shower you with massive rain droplets or anything like that. It's just that this one is slightly better. You can see that's a nice fine mist. So yeah, I filled this with NYX spray. But the NYX spray are really great. They come in a dewy and a matte finish depending on what you want. And whether you're using the matte or the dewy finish, what the setting spray will do is take down any powderiness that you have from your other products that you've put on your face, because obviously we've used a lot of powders today. My personal preference in my daily life is to use creams. I love cream highlight, cream contour, cream blush, cream eyeshadow, cream everything, but they're not particularly beginner friendly. So today we have used more powders. So a setting spray will just take down some of that powdery finish and just make everything look a little bit more natural, a little bit more melted together. You can tell I really like setting spray, I'm going kind of crazy. Don't panic if your face feels wet. Your makeup is not ruined. You can just take something, fan yourself. Probably don't do this. This is full of eyeshadows. It's probably not very sensible, but I couldn't reach anything else to fan myself with. I'm not going to curl my eyelashes today because I feel like if you're a beginner, you might not want to put a metal clamp near your eye. just a personal feeling. So I'm gonna go in with mascara without any curling, and this is the Waterproof Lash Paradise mascara from L'Oreal. I also have a second mascara to share with you. Like, for me in my daily routine, I use 3 mascaras, but I figured that was a bit extra, so I better pare it down to 2. Now, if you don't have particularly long eyelashes, then you can just use this on your lower lashes. For me, I can't use this on my lower lashes. My lower lashes are pretty long and they touch my face, so I need an extra strong smudge proof mascara. So I use the Hamish Dialism Smudge Stop Mascara, which, like the Innisfree powder and the MacQueen eyeliner, is a Korean product that you would have to order online, but I think it's worth it, personally. This one, of course, you can buy in store. So we will start with this one on the upper lashes. It has a natural bristle brush which gives a nice amount of volume. If you want your lashes to look really like separated and you don't care so much about volume, you can get a like plastic or silicone brush. The Kiko Maxi Mod mascara has a nice little plastic brush which is really good at separating out the lashes. But if you want more volume on your eyelashes, I'd recommend going with the traditional bristle brush like this. It's really hard talking while I do this, by the way. Let's stop talking for a minute. I am going to put the Hamish one on my lower lashes, just because, as I said, pretty much every other mascara in the world apart from this one smudges on my lower lashes. So this one kind of has to be my lower lash mascara. But if you don't have really long lower lashes, or you try your other mascaras, try a regular waterproof mascara on your lower lashes and you find it doesn't smudge, then you don't need to buy a separate lower lash mascara. Personally, one of the things I like about this is if I accidentally get a little bit on my under eyes as I'm applying it, once it dries, it like flicks right off. It doesn't cause any big smudges or problems. It's very easy to fix mistakes. So I do have a tiny bit under my eyes, so what I'm going to do is just hold my eyes open until it dries, and then I will use my spoolie over here to just flick the excess mascara away. Get rid of it completely with my brush. And there we go. All that's left now is our brow gel, aka the clear mascara that I have from Wet n Wild, which is super affordable. And I'm just going to use this to make my brows look a little bit more fluffy by brushing the brow hairs up and out. Just my personal style. You can obviously keep them within the lines of your brow if you want a less fluffy looking style. And we're finished. Let me take my hair down. So those are my affordable favourites that make up a beginner's makeup kit. I've chosen all of these products because they're easy to apply. The foundation and the concealer blend out really easily. The cream blush and the powder bronzer are not overly pigmented. The eyeliner is creamy but budge proof. So all of these products are really high quality for the price that you are paying, and I honestly think the few Korean products that I have included here are seriously worth ordering online. Like I said, YesStyle and Stylevana often have sales, and if you spend above a minimum amount, they will give you free delivery. Delivery can take a week or 2 because they are coming internationally, but seriously, like, these MacQueen eyeliners are my absolute favourite. Like, I don't care if we're talking about affordable makeup, high-end makeup, whatever. Like, I would choose these over like more expensive eyeliners that I own. Okay, so that was everything for today. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed this kind of neutral, girly makeup look. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye!